Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, and welcome to another weekend book review. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into this book, The 5 Types of Wealth by Sahil Bloom.
Oh yeah, the one with the subtitle, A Transformative Guide to Design Your Dream Life.
That's the one. So, the main argument is that true wealth goes way beyond just your bank account.
Right, it's not just about money.
So we're going to break down each of these 5 types of wealth, see how they connect to each other and how they apply to you.
And get ready for some deep questions along the way.
Yeah, how much time do you actually have left with your loved ones? What's your definition of enough? Will you still be dancing at your 80th birthday party?
Big questions. I love how Bloom starts the book. He's having drinks with a friend, just casual conversation. And, and the friend just drops this bomb that you probably only get to see your parents 15 more times before they die.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, heavy stuff.
Right. Definitely makes you rethink your priorities. What are we actually spending our time on?
Exactly. And that's what kind of launched Bloom's whole journey into exploring wealth beyond just, the financial kind.
Oh, that's interesting. And speaking of Bloom, did you notice anything about his background? I was reading that his parents were from totally different cultures.
Huh. I didn't really think about that, but it makes sense.
Maybe that's why he's so good at challenging conventional thinking,
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so before we really dive deep into each type of wealth, can we give everyone a quick overview?
Sure.
Okay, first we've got time wealth, which is having the freedom to spend your time how you want, where you want, and with whom you want.
Then there's social wealth, which is about having those really strong, meaningful connections with loved ones.
Yeah, and feeling a sense of belonging to a community.
Exactly. Then we have mental wealth, which is all about having a curious mind, finding your purpose, and always learning and growing.
Can't forget about physical wealth, which is basically taking care of your body.
Through movement, nutrition, and making sure you get enough recovery.
And then finally, there's the one we probably think about the most, financial wealth.
Ah, money, money, money.
Yeah. But even this one, Bloom kind of redefines it. He says it's about having enough money to live the life you want.
Without being constantly consumed by always wanting more.
Exactly. And, that's a big theme throughout the book, this idea of contentment and defining your own enough.
Right. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah. So it's about having all 5 of these types of wealth working together in harmony. None is more important than the other.
I think that's a really important point. They're all interconnected.
Totally. Okay, let's start with time wealth. Bloom tells this really great story about Amy Lockhart. She's a mom of 3, and she really emphasizes cherishing the limited time we have with loved ones.
Oh, yeah. The part where she talks about how you don't really have your kids for 18 years. More like 12 or 13 before they start needing you less and wanting to do their own thing.
Exactly. Time really does fly. Bloom also introduces this concept of a time billionaire, someone who has over 1 billion seconds left to live.
It makes you think, doesn't it? How many seconds do we have left, especially with those we love?
Definitely puts things into perspective. Okay, so Bloom says that to maximize your time wealth, there are 3 main things you need to focus on.
He calls them pillars: awareness, attention, and control.
Okay, let's start with awareness. What's that all about?
Awareness is all about understanding that time is, it's limited, and it needs to be managed consciously. It's not going to manage itself.
I like that. Time doesn't manage itself. So how do we become more aware of our time? What are some practical things we can do?
Well, Bloom has some interesting suggestions. One that really struck me was actually calculating the remaining time you have with your loved ones.
Oh, wow. That's a little...
morbid. Yeah, maybe a little. But it really does help you see things more clearly.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, what else?
He also talks about having what he calls a life raiser, which is a personal rule.
Yeah.
That helps you make decisions that align with your values. So, for example, you could have a life raiser that says, I never miss a Tuesday dinner with my family, or I always make time for a morning run no matter what.
I love that. So those become your non-negotiables. You build your life around those things.
Exactly. It ensures you're spending your time on what truly matters.
Okay, so that's awareness. What about the second pillar? Attention.
Attention is all about focusing on those activities that have the biggest impact. It's about not letting yourself get bogged down in all the busy work and the distractions.
So how do we figure out what those high leverage activities are? The ones we should be focusing our attention on?
Bloom suggests using something called the Eisenhower matrix, which helps you categorize your tasks based on urgency and importance.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. It helps you prioritize the tasks that will actually move the needle in the long run.
Exactly. And he also talks about Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted for it. So, his solution: set shorter deadlines to increase your efficiency.
Ah, so a little bit of pressure can be a good thing.
Definitely. And finally, he talks about mastering the art of no.
Learning to say no.
Yes, learning to say no to all those low-value activities that drain your time and energy and don't really contribute to your goals.
It's so true. We often overcommit without even realizing how much time we're giving away.
Right, and then we wonder where all our time went.
Okay, anything else for attention?
Oh, one more thing. Time blocking. Bloom's a big fan of time blocking. It's basically where you allocate specific blocks of time for different activities in your day.
So you're not just letting the day happen to you, you're actually planning it out and being intentional with your time.
Exactly. It brings so much more structure and intention to your day. Okay, so we've covered awareness and attention. What about control? The third pillar of time wealth.
So what is control all about?
Control is about having the freedom to allocate your time according to your own preferences. It's about being the master of your own schedule.
Who doesn't want that?
Right. And to achieve that, you have to actually apply those strategies we talked about for awareness and attention.
Okay.
And consciously design a life that puts time wealth front and center.
So it's about recognizing that time is our most valuable asset and using it wisely to create a life we love.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, let's move on to social wealth. One story in the book that really stuck with me was about Eric Newton.
The one whose wife was diagnosed with a really aggressive form of cancer.
Yeah, that one. It just made him realize, how important those deep connections are. When you're facing that kind of adversity, it puts everything into perspective.
Definitely. And it really ties into that 75-year-long Harvard study of adult development.
The one that found that having good relationships is actually the biggest predictor of health and happiness, even more than money or fame.
That's the one. It's not just some feel-good saying. The research actually shows that strong social connections are crucial for our well-being.
Which is amazing because we're social creatures, right? Those bonds are wired into us. They make such a difference.
It makes you wonder about this whole loneliness epidemic that's happening. It seems kind of ironic given how hyper-connected we are in today's world.
I know, right? We're more connected than ever through technology, but it seems like real, meaningful connection is actually declining.
We're trading quality for quantity, hundreds of online friends. But how many people do we actually feel deeply connected to?
Bloom actually argues that this constant focus on optimizing our lives, especially financially, can actually make the loneliness problem worse.
We put work and productivity above nurturing our relationships.
Which in the end backfires because we end up feeling less fulfilled.
Right, exactly. We need those connections. Okay, let's break down the 3 pillars of social wealth.
I'm ready. Hit me with them.
Okay, first we have depth, then breadth, and then earn status.
Okay, depth first. What's that all about?
Depth is about cultivating those really strong, meaningful relationships. The ones you can call in the middle of the night if you need help.
The ones who will be sitting in the front row at your funeral, as Bloom puts it.
Exactly. The kind of relationships where you can truly be yourself, no masks, no pretense.
You feel seen, heard, and understood.
Exactly. And Bloom tells a story about his own relationship with his sister. They were really competitive growing up, almost like rivals. And it really damaged their connection.
Oh, wow.
But then when they both became parents, they found this common ground.
Okay.
And their relationship really blossomed. It's amazing how shared experiences can bring people closer together.
So true. Okay, depth makes sense. What about breadth?
Breadth is about building connections beyond just your immediate circle, finding community and support in different areas of your life.
Bloom talks about being generous with your time and energy, like volunteering, helping others, being active in your community, those kinds of things.
Right. It's about giving without expecting anything in return. And that kind of generosity tends to attract other like-minded people into your life.
It expands your social circle in a really meaningful way. Bloom also talks about finding those rooms where you can connect with people who share your interests.
Yeah, those spaces where you feel a sense of belonging.
Exactly. Whether it's a book club, a workshop, or even just striking up a conversation with someone at your local coffee shop, it's about putting yourself out there and being open to new connections.
And don't forget about online communities.
Oh yeah, those can be great too, especially for connecting with people who share your passions, like no matter where they are in the world.
Totally. Okay, so we've covered depth and breadth. Now for the third pillar of social wealth, earned status.
All right, this one sounds interesting. What is earned status all about?
So this is where it gets really interesting. Earned status is about gaining respect and admiration, but not through like flashy displays of wealth or trying to impress people. It's about your character, your actions, the contributions you make.
It's about building a reputation that's based on substance, not just superficial stuff.
Exactly. And Bloom contrasts earned status with what he calls acquired status.
And acquired status is about like all the external markers of success, the fancy cars, the designer clothes, the expensive vacations.
Exactly. But the problem with acquired status is that it's fleeting. There's always someone with more, something newer, something bigger.
It's like a never-ending chase.
And it often leads to emptiness and dissatisfaction. Bloom actually uses the example of this 18th century philosopher named Denis Diderot.
Oh yeah, what happened to him?
He acquired this like really fancy scarlet robe,
Okay.
and then he felt compelled to upgrade all his other possessions to match the status of the robe.
So it's like one thing led to another, and he got caught in this spiral of consumerism.
Exactly. The Diderot effect. It's so easy to fall into that trap, especially in a culture that places so much emphasis on material wealth.
So how do we cultivate earned status? Like, what are some things we can do?
Bloom offers some really insightful strategies. One of my favorites is mastering the art of conversation.
Oh, that's a good one. He talks about being a really good listener, asking thoughtful questions,
Right. Being genuinely interested in other people.
and truly listening to understand, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Exactly. He also talks about building what he calls a brain trust, a group of trusted individuals you can go to for advice and support.
You know, those people who will challenge you to grow.
Yes. And help you see your blind spots.
The kind of people who will tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear.
Exactly. Having those people in your life is invaluable.
Totally agree. Okay, so we've covered the 3 pillars of social wealth: depth, breadth, and earned status. Now it's time to move on to mental wealth.
Yes. Mental wealth, all about that curious mind, finding your purpose, and having a growth mindset.
I love how Bloom references Steve Jobs' famous Stanford commencement address, the one where he talks about following your heart and intuition, and how that led him to create Apple.
Oh, yeah. And how important it is to not let the opinions of others drown out your own inner voice.
That message really resonates with this idea of mental wealth.
Right.
It's about having the courage to define your own path, to pursue what matters to you, not what other people think you should be doing.
Absolutely. And not being afraid to think differently, to challenge the status quo.
There's this great story in the book where Bloom talks about writing a letter to his future self on his 24th birthday.
And 10 years later, when he opened it,
He was blown away by how much wisdom and insight his younger self had shared.
makes you think, right?
Yeah. Like, maybe the answers we're looking for are already within us. We just need to ask the right questions.
Okay, let's get into the 3 pillars of mental wealth. They are purpose, growth, and space.
Purpose, growth, and space. Got it. Okay, let's start with purpose. What's that all about?
Purpose is about living a life that aligns with your values, about finding meaning and fulfillment in what you do, It's about going beyond just the everyday tasks and routines and finding something that gives your life a sense of direction.
So, it's not necessarily about having some big grand mission. It can be simpler than that.
Definitely. Bloom highlights research from Dan Buettner's work on blue zones, those areas around the world where people live exceptionally long and healthy lives.
Oh, right. Like Sardinia, Okinawa.
Exactly. And one thing that these centenarians have in common is a strong sense of purpose.
Like they have a reason for getting up in the morning, something that motivates them and keeps them going.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be some world-changing mission. It can be as simple as being a loving parent or supportive friend, an active member of your community. It's about what gives your life meaning.
It's about that personal sense of fulfillment.
Exactly. And Bloom points out that your purpose doesn't have to be tied to your career or your job. Lots of people find their purpose in activities outside of work.
So it's about how you live your life overall.
Yeah, it's about aligning your actions with your values, regardless of what your job title is.
Bloom actually includes some exercises in the book to help readers discover their purpose, right?
He does. Like using the Japanese concept of ikigai, which means like reason for being.
Didn't that involve figuring out the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for?
Exactly. It's a powerful framework for self-discovery.
I'm going to have to try that one. Okay, so we've talked about purpose. Let's move on to growth.
Growth is all about actively seeking out new knowledge, new experiences, always looking for opportunities to learn and expand your horizons. It's about embracing a growth mindset.
Oh, yeah. Bloom actually talks about the research by Carol Dweck on fixed mindsets versus growth mindsets.
Exactly. People with a growth mindset believe that they can develop their abilities and their intelligence through effort and learning.
While people with a fixed mindset tend to believe that their talents are predetermined. Like they're born with a certain amount of intelligence or ability, and that's it.
And that makes a huge difference in how people approach challenges and setbacks.
People with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, while people with a fixed mindset tend to see them as threats.
Exactly. Bloom offers some great techniques for cultivating a growth mindset.
Like the Feynman technique, where you try to explain a concept to someone else as if you were teaching it to a child.
You got it. It's a great way to solidify your understanding of something and to identify any gaps in your knowledge.
Makes sense. What else?
He also talks about the power of spaced repetition, which is a learning technique where you review material at increasing intervals.
Oh, right. Like you might review something a few minutes after learning it, then again a few hours later, then a day later, and so on.
Exactly. It helps you move that information into your long-term memory. Bloom also emphasizes the importance of asking thoughtful questions.
He's a big fan of the Socratic method, right?
Yes. Using questions to challenge assumptions, to uncover biases, to deepen your understanding.
It's all about being curious and constantly seeking to learn more.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered purpose and growth. Now onto the third pillar of mental wealth, space.
Okay, what is space all about?
Space is about giving yourself time for reflection, for quiet contemplation, for disconnecting from the constant noise and demands of the world.
Like taking a break from all the stimulation.
Exactly. Bloom's a big advocate for taking walks in nature. He finds that it helps to clear his head, to spark creativity, and to just relax and de-stress.
It's like hitting the reset button for your brain.
Exactly. He also recommends having a power-down ritual at the end of the workday.
What's that?
It's a sequence of actions that helps you signal to your brain that it's time to transition from work mode to personal time.
Oh, I like that. Like setting boundaries between your work life and your personal life.
Exactly. It could be something as simple as turning off your notifications, putting away your work devices, dimming the lights, maybe listening to some calming music.
Yeah, it's about shifting your mental state.
Exactly. Bloom also offers some tips for minimizing distractions and creating a more conducive environment for mental clarity.
So like having a dedicated workspace.
Yes, and setting aside specific blocks of time for focused work, turning off notifications, things like that.
It's about being intentional with your time and attention, instead of just letting yourself get pulled in a million different directions.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the three pillars of mental wealth: purpose, growth, and space.
Now on to physical wealth.
All right, let's hear it. What is physical wealth all about?
Physical wealth is about taking care of your physical body
Okay.
through movement, through proper nutrition, and making sure you get enough recovery. But Bloom emphasizes that it's not about trying to achieve some impossible ideal of beauty or fitness.
Yeah, like it's not about trying to look like someone in a magazine.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing your health and well-being so you feel good in your own skin.
I like that. So it's more about feeling good than looking good.
Exactly. And he tells this really inspiring story about Dan Go, who lost a significant amount of weight and completely turned his life around by embracing exercise and changing his diet.
Oh, wow. That's great. So it really can make a big difference.
It absolutely can. And Bloom talks about how these changes actually had a ripple effect on Dan's life.
Really?
How so? Well, it affected his energy levels, his mindset, his confidence, his relationships, everything.
Wow. So it's not just about physical health. It impacts every area of your life.
Exactly. Bloom argues that taking care of your physical health can create a really powerful shift in your overall perspective on life.
It makes sense. Okay, let's break down the three pillars of physical wealth: movement, nutrition, and recovery.
All right, sounds good.
So first up, movement. What are Bloom's suggestions for getting more movement into our lives?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of both cardio and strength training. He actually cites research showing that even moderate amounts of exercise can have significant health benefits.
So we don't have to be marathon runners or powerlifters to reap the benefits.
Well, definitely not. He also encourages people to find activities they actually enjoy doing because that makes them way more likely to stick with it over the long term. And he even includes a sample movement plan in the book with different levels of intensity for different fitness levels.
That's helpful. Okay, what about nutrition? What are Bloom's recommendations for eating healthy?
Well, Bloom's approach to nutrition is all about focusing on whole, unprocessed foods.
So like real food.
Exactly. He's not a fan of restrictive diets or fads. He advocates for a more balanced approach, prioritizing nutrient-rich foods over processed junk.
Okay, so it's more about making sustainable, healthy choices than following the latest diet trend?
Exactly. And he talks about the importance of understanding macronutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. He even provides like a 3-tiered approach to nutrition with different levels of stringency.
So it's like levels of commitment based on how ready you are to make changes.
Precisely. The key is to find what works best for you and your lifestyle.
Okay, movement and nutrition, check. What about recovery?
Recovery is so important. Bloom really emphasizes the importance of sleep. He talks about research showing how sleep deprivation can wreak havoc on our physical and mental health.
He gives some tips for how to improve sleep quality.
Tons of them. Things like sticking to a consistent sleep schedule, optimizing your sleep environment, avoiding screens before bed.
I definitely need to work on that last one.
He also recommends incorporating other recovery-promoting activities into your routine. Things like taking breaks throughout the day, spending time in nature, practicing relaxation techniques.
I love that. It's about giving yourself time to recharge.
Exactly. And Bloom's a big advocate for incorporating breathing exercises into your day.
I bet he has some specific breathing techniques he recommends.
Oh, he does. He actually shares several different breathing protocols designed to help reduce stress and promote a sense of calm.
Okay, we've got to talk more about those later. So we've covered all 3 pillars of physical wealth: movement, nutrition, and recovery. That brings us to our final type of wealth: financial wealth.
Ah, yes, financial wealth. Bloom starts this chapter with a really thought-provoking anecdote about Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller.
Oh yeah, weren't they at a party at a billionaire's house?
That's right. And Vonnegut asks Heller how it makes him feel, knowing that their host probably made more money in a single day than Heller's novel Catch-22 had earned in its entire history.
Ouch.
Right. But Heller's response is just brilliant. He says, "I've got something he can never have. The knowledge that I've got enough."
Mic drop. What a powerful statement.
Right. It really highlights the importance of contentment and defining your own version of enough.
Bloom talks about how constantly chasing more can lead to this never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction. No matter how much you have, it's never enough.
Exactly. He actually uses the parable of the fisherman and the investment banker to illustrate this point.
Remind me how that one goes.
Okay, so the investment banker is trying to convince the fisherman that he needs to work harder, make more money so he can buy a bigger boat, catch more fish, and eventually retire early and live a life of leisure.
Right. I remember now.
But the fisherman's like, wait a minute, I'm already doing that. I fish all morning, I relax in the afternoon, I spend time with my family, I play guitar in the evening. I'm already living the life you're describing.
I see. The fisherman is already content with his simple life. He doesn't need all the extra stuff.
Exactly. It's a reminder that financial wealth is a means to an end, not the end in itself.
Okay, so let's talk about the 3 pillars of financial wealth, Bloom calls them: enough life, income generation, and expense management.
Great. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first up is enough life. What's that all about?
Enough life is about defining what financial freedom means for you. It's about figuring out how much money you actually need to live the life you want, not how much money you think you should have or how much money other people have.
So it's about getting clear on your own personal needs and desires.
Exactly. Bloom provides a really great exercise in the book that can help you figure this out. It involves envisioning your ideal day, like thinking about where you live, who you're spending time with, what you're doing, how you're spending your money.
So you're basically painting a picture of your dream life.
Yes.
And then working backward to figure out how much money you would need to support that lifestyle.
Exactly. Then we have income generation, which is all about building marketable skills.
Okay.
And using those skills to create a sustainable income stream.
What are some of his tips for that?
He talks a lot about the importance of developing what he calls meta skills.
What are meta skills?
They're basically skills that are valuable across a wide range of careers. Things like sales, storytelling, design, leadership.
Oh, so it's not just about being an expert in one very specific field.
Not necessarily. It's about developing these more transferable skills that can be applied in lots of different industries and roles.
That makes sense.
He also talks about identifying your strengths and interests and then finding ways to monetize them.
I like that. So figure out what you're good at and what you enjoy, and then find a way to make a living doing it.
Exactly. He actually provides this really helpful chart that maps out different income generating assets.
Like what?
Like traditional employment, of course,
Yeah.
but also real estate investing, starting your own business, writing a book, creating an online course, all sorts of things.
He also talks about the importance of considering the risk and reward associated with each of those different paths.
Right. He wants people to be informed and to be strategic about their choices.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got enough life and income generation. What about expense management? What's that all about?
Expense management is about living below your means, being mindful of how you spend your money, and avoiding lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle creep.
Yeah, that's when your expenses increase as your income increases. So you get a raise, and suddenly you're spending more money on, like, eating out, entertainment, clothes, things you don't really need.
I see. It's easy to fall into that trap. So Bloom gives some practical tips for managing expenses.
Oh, tons of them. He talks about creating a budget, tracking your spending, automating your savings, having money automatically transferred from your checking account to your savings account each month.
So you don't even have to think about it.
Exactly. He also talks about negotiating lower rates on your bills, like your cell phone bill or your internet bill. And he emphasizes the importance of having a rainy day fund.
An emergency fund.
Yes, so you have a cushion to fall back on if something unexpected happens.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered all three pillars of financial wealth: enough life, income generation, and expense management. Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground today.
We've explored all 5 types of wealth.
We talked about how they're all interconnecting.
And we've learned some really valuable strategies for building each type of wealth.
I don't know about you, but this deep dive has definitely been an eye-opener for me.
It really has. For me, I think the biggest takeaway is how interconnected all these different forms of wealth are. Like, they're not separate things, they all work together.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you need a solid foundation of time wealth, so you can actually have the space in your life to cultivate those deep social connections.
Exactly. And when you're mentally and physically well, it makes it so much easier to make smart financial decisions.
Totally. It's not about choosing one type of wealth over another. It's about finding that balance, that harmony between all 5. And, one thing that Bloom really emphasizes is that it's a journey, not a destination.
Oh, I love that.
It's not like you achieve a certain level of wealth and then you're done. It's an ongoing process.
It is. And your definition of enough can change over time, too, as your priorities evolve.
So true. And what I really appreciate about this book is that Bloom gives you so many practical strategies for building each type of wealth.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't just talk about the concepts. He gives you actual tools and techniques you can use. Like, remember that idea of actually calculating how much time you have left with your loved ones?
Oh, yeah. That was a real wake-up call for me.
Me too. It really makes you stop and think about how you're spending your precious time. And what about that life raiser concept?
Oh, I love that one. It's such a simple but powerful idea. Having a personal rule that helps you make decisions that are aligned with your values.
Like a guiding principle that helps you stay on track.
Exactly. I'm already brainstorming some life raisers for myself.
Yeah.
What about you? Any strategies from the book that you're particularly excited to try out?
Oh, for sure. The Enough Life exercise really stood out to me. It's such a clear and concise way to set financial goals that are based on the life you actually want, not just on some random number.
I love that. It ties into that whole idea of contentment and not getting caught up in that constant chase for more.
Right, exactly. Like, remember that story about Vonnegut and Heller?
Where Heller says he has something the billionaire can never have: enough.
Yes, such a powerful reminder that true wealth is about inner peace and fulfillment, not just the stuff you own.
Okay, so we've covered time wealth, social wealth, physical wealth, and financial wealth.
And we've talked about how they all work together to create a truly rich and meaningful life.
Exactly. But wait a minute. We're not quite done yet, are we?
Yeah.
We have one more type of wealth to cover: mental wealth.
Ah, yes, mental wealth. All about having a curious mind, a strong sense of purpose, and that growth mindset we talked about earlier.
Bloom starts this chapter by quoting Steve Jobs' famous Stanford commencement address. You know, the one where he talks about the importance of following your heart and intuition and how that led him to create Apple?
Oh, yes, and how crucial it is not to let other people's opinions drown out your own inner voice.
That message really aligns with this whole concept of mental wealth, doesn't it? It's about having the courage to forge your own path.
To pursue what truly matters to you, even if it goes against the grain.
And to not be afraid to think differently, to challenge the norm.
Yes, yes. Bloom tells this great story about writing a letter to his future self on his 24th birthday.
And 10 years later, when he opened it,
he was blown away by the wisdom and insights his younger self had shared. It's like sometimes we already have the answers within us, we just need to ask the right questions.
So true. Okay, let's get into the 3 pillars of mental wealth: purpose, growth, and space. Starting with purpose. What is purpose all about?
Well, I think of it as living a life that's aligned with your values, finding that meaning and fulfillment beyond just going through the motions of daily life.
It's about finding that thing that makes you feel alive, that gets you excited to wake up in the morning.
Yes. And you know, Bloom actually highlights research on blue zones, those regions of the world where people are living incredibly long and healthy lives.
Oh, right, like Sardinia and Okinawa.
Exactly. And guess what? One common thread among these centenarians: a strong sense of purpose.
So it's not just about living longer, it's about living better.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be some grand, world-changing mission. It can be as simple as being a loving parent, a supportive friend, an active member of your community. It's about what gives your life meaning.
It's about finding what makes you tick.
Exactly. And Bloom also emphasizes that your purpose doesn't have to be tied to your career or your job. Like, a lot of people find their purpose in activities outside of work.
So it's about your life as a whole, how you choose to spend your time and energy.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your values, no matter what your job title is.
He actually gives readers some exercises in the book to help them uncover their purpose, right?
He does, like using the Japanese concept of ikigai.
Which translates to reason for being.
Right. It's about finding the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for.
It's like a Venn diagram of your life purpose.
It is. It's a really powerful tool for self-discovery.
I'm definitely going to try that one. Okay, what about the next pillar? Growth.
Growth is all about actively seeking out new knowledge and new experiences, embracing that growth mindset we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah. Remember the work by Carol Dweck on fixed versus growth mindsets?
Exactly. People with the growth mindset believe they can develop their abilities through effort and learning.
While people with a fixed mindset think their talents are set in stone.
And that makes such a huge difference in how we approach challenges and setbacks in life.
It does. Like, people with a growth mindset see challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, while people with a fixed mindset tend to see them as threats.
Right. And Bloom offers some fantastic techniques for cultivating a growth mindset.
Like the Feynman technique.
Yes, where you try to explain something to someone else as if you were teaching it to a child. It helps solidify your own understanding and identify any gaps in your knowledge.
It's like the ultimate test of whether you really understand something.
Exactly. And he talks about the power of spaced repetition, which is a learning technique where you review material at increasing intervals.
So you're constantly reinforcing what you've learned.
Exactly. It helps you move that information into your long-term memory. Bloom also emphasizes the importance of asking thoughtful questions, using that Socratic method to challenge assumptions and deepen your understanding.
Always be curious.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got purpose and growth. Now, what about space? The third pillar of mental wealth.
Okay, tell me about space.
Space is about giving yourself the time and space for quiet reflection, for disconnecting from the constant noise and demands of the world.
So, like, taking a break from all the stimulation and information overload.
Exactly. Bloom's a big advocate for taking walks in nature. He says it helps to clear his head, sparks creativity, and allows him to just relax and de-stress.
It's like hitting the reset button for your brain.
It is.
Yeah.
He also recommends having a power down ritual at the end of the workday.
A power down ritual.
Yeah, it's basically a set of actions that signals to your brain that it's time to transition from work mode to personal time.
Oh, interesting. Like creating a boundary between your work life and your personal life.
Exactly. It could be something as simple as turning off notifications, putting away your work devices, maybe dimming the lights, listening to some calming music. It's about consciously shifting your mental state.
That makes so much sense. I know I could definitely use more of that in my life.
Bloom also offers some tips for minimizing distractions and creating an environment that promotes mental clarity.
So like having a dedicated workspace, setting aside specific times for focused work, turning off all those pesky notifications.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with your time and attention instead of letting yourself get pulled in a million different directions.
I need to work on that. Okay, so we've covered the 3 pillars of mental wealth: purpose, growth, and space. Now let's move on to physical wealth.
All right. Physical wealth is all about taking care of your physical body through movement, through proper nutrition, and through ensuring you get enough recovery. But Bloom stresses that it's not about trying to reach some impossible beauty or fitness standard.
It's not about trying to look like someone in a magazine.
No, not at all. It's about prioritizing your health and well-being so you feel good in your own skin.
That's a great way to put it. It's more about feeling good than looking good.
Exactly. He tells this inspiring story about a guy named Dan Go who lost a significant amount of weight and completely turned his life around.
Wow.
By embracing exercise and changing his diet.
That's amazing. It really shows how powerful those changes can be.
It really does. And
Yeah.
Bloom talks about how those changes had this ripple effect on Dan's life.
Really? Like what?
It affected his energy levels, his mindset, his confidence, his relationships. Everything improved.
So it's not just about physical, it impacts all these other areas of your life.
Exactly. Bloom argues that taking care of your physical health can create this really powerful shift in your whole perspective on life.
I believe it. Okay, let's dive into the 3 pillars of physical wealth: movement, nutrition, and recovery.
All right, let's do it.
First up, movement. What are some of Bloom's suggestions for incorporating more movement into our lives?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of both cardio and strength training. He actually cites research showing that even moderate amounts of exercise can have significant health benefits.
So we don't have to be marathon runners or Olympic weightlifters to get those benefits.
Absolutely not. He also encourages people to find activities they truly enjoy doing because that makes them more likely to stick with it long term. And he actually provides a sample movement plan in the book with different levels of intensity for different fitness levels.
So that's helpful, like a beginner track, intermediate track, advanced track.
Exactly.
Okay, what about nutrition? What are Bloom's recommendations for eating healthy?
Well, his approach to nutrition is all about focusing on whole, unprocessed foods. You know, real food. He's not a fan of restrictive diets or fads. He advocates for a balanced approach, where you prioritize nutrient-rich foods over processed junk.
So it's more about making sustainable, healthy choices than trying to follow the latest trendy diet.
Exactly. He also talks about the importance of understanding those micronutrients: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. And of course, making sure you're getting enough water.
Staying hydrated.
Yep. He provides a 3-tiered approach to nutrition with different levels of stringency.
Like levels of commitment, based on how ready you are to make changes in your diet.
Precisely. The key is to find what works for you and your individual lifestyle.
So true. Okay, we've covered movement and nutrition. What about recovery? What does he have to say about that?
Recovery is crucial. Bloom really stresses the importance of getting enough sleep. And he talks about all this research showing how sleep deprivation can negatively impact both our physical and mental health.
Oh yeah, I've definitely noticed that when I don't get enough sleep.
He offers some tips for improving sleep quality, like sticking to a consistent sleep schedule, optimizing your sleep environment, avoiding screen time before bed.
I definitely need to work on that last one. I'm always scrolling through my phone before bed.
He also recommends incorporating other recovery-promoting activities into your routine. Things like taking breaks throughout the day, spending time in nature, and practicing relaxation techniques.
Those all sound great.
Bloom is also a big advocate for incorporating breathing exercises into your day.
Oh, I love breathing exercises. I bet he has some specific techniques he recommends.
Oh, he does. He actually shares several different breathing protocols designed to help reduce stress and promote a sense of calm and relaxation.
We've got to talk more about those later. Okay, so we've covered all 3 pillars of physical wealth: movement, nutrition, and recovery. Now on to the final type of wealth: financial wealth.
Oh, yes, financial wealth. Bloom kicks off this chapter with a really thought-provoking anecdote about Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller. They're attending a party at a billionaire's mansion, and Vonnegut asks Heller how it makes him feel, knowing that their host probably made more money in a single day than Heller's novel Catch-22 had earned in its entire history.
Talk about a reality check.
Right, but Heller's response is just brilliant. He says, "I've got something he can never have. The knowledge that I've got enough.
Mic drop. What a profound statement.
It really emphasizes the importance of contentment and defining your own version of enough.
Absolutely. Bloom goes on to talk about how constantly chasing more can lead to this never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction. No matter how much you achieve or how much you acquire, it's never enough.
It's like you're always striving for that next thing, but you never actually arrive at a place of true contentment.
Exactly. Bloom actually uses the parable of the fisherman and the investment banker to illustrate this point.
Oh, yes, a classic. Remember how it goes?
Yeah, the investment banker is trying to convince the fisherman that he needs to work harder, make more money, buy a bigger boat, catch more fish, and then eventually he can retire early and live this life of leisure.
And the fisherman's like, I'm already doing that.
Exactly. The fisherman is content with his simple life. He doesn't need all the extra stuff.
It's such a great reminder that financial wealth is a means to an end, not the end itself.
Okay, so let's talk about the 3 pillars of financial wealth: enough life, income generation, and expense management.
All right, sounds good.
So, first up, enough life. What's that all about?
Enough life is about defining what financial freedom means to you. Figuring out how much money you need to live the life you want, not how much you think you should have or how much other people have.
So it's about getting clear on your own personal needs and desires, not comparing yourself to others.
Exactly. Bloom has this great exercise in the book that can help you figure this out.
What's the exercise?
It involves envisioning your ideal day. Like, where do you live? Who are you spending your time with? What are you doing? How are you spending your money? It's like you're painting a picture of your dream life.
And then you work backward to figure out how much money you'd need to make that dream a reality.
Precisely. Then we have income generation, which is all about building marketable skills and using those skills to create a sustainable income stream.
Okay, so how do we go about building marketable skills?
Bloom talks a lot about the importance of developing what he calls meta skills.
Meta skills, remind me what those are.
Meta skills are those abilities that are valuable across a wide range of careers. Things like sales, storytelling, design thinking, leadership. These are the skills that employers are always looking for, regardless of the specific industry.
So it's not necessarily about being an expert in one very specific field.
No, not at all. It's about developing those more adaptable skills that you can apply in a variety of different settings.
Makes sense. What else does he recommend for income generation?
He also emphasizes the importance of identifying your unique strengths and interests and finding ways to monetize them.
So figure out what you're good at and what you enjoy doing, and then find a way to make a living from it.
Exactly. He actually provides this really helpful chart in the book that outlines different income-generating assets.
Like what?
Like traditional employment, of course, but also things like real estate investing, starting your own business, writing a book, creating an online course. There are so many options these days.
He also talks about the importance of considering the risks and rewards associated with each of those different income-generating paths.
Right. He wants people to be informed and make strategic choices that align with their goals and their risk tolerance.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got enough life and income generation. What about expense management?
Expense management is all about living below your means, being mindful of how you spend your money, and avoiding lifestyle creep.
Lifestyle creep.
Yeah, it's when your expenses tend to increase as your income increases.
Yeah. You get a raise, and suddenly you find yourself spending more on dining out, entertainment, clothes, all those little things that add up.
Exactly. Bloom provides a ton of practical tips for managing your expenses effectively.
Heck what?
He talks about creating a budget, tracking your spending, automating your savings, and negotiating better deals on bills, like your phone bill or internet bill.
Oh, that's a good one. I always forget to negotiate.
He also emphasizes the importance of having a rainy day fund.
An emergency fund.
Exactly, so that you have a cushion to fall back on if something unexpected happens.
That peace of mind is so valuable. Okay, so we've explored all 5 types of wealth: time, social, mental, physical, and financial. Wow, this deep dive has really been insightful. What are some key takeaways for you?
I think the biggest thing for me is realizing how much these different forms of wealth really do support each other. Like, you need that solid foundation of time wealth to nurture those deep social connections. Absolutely. And when you're feeling good mentally and physically, it makes it so much easier to make those smart financial decisions. It's not about choosing one over the other.
Yeah, they all work together. And remember how Bloom emphasizes that it's an ongoing journey, not a destination. Like, you never really arrive at wealth. It's an ongoing process of growth and evolution.
I love that. And your definition of enough might shift over time too as your priorities change and you move through different phases of life.
So true. And you know what I really appreciate about Bloom's book is that he gives you all these practical strategies and tools you can actually use.
Oh, totally. He doesn't just talk about these concepts in a vague, abstract way. He gives you actionable steps you can take.
Yeah, like remember that idea of actually calculating how much time you have left with your loved ones.
Oh man, that one was a real eye-opener for me.
Me too. It really makes you reevaluate how you're spending your precious time.
And what about that life raiser concept? Having a personal rule that helps you make decisions aligned with your values. I love that idea.
Oh, I love that one too. It's such a simple but powerful concept. I'm already brainstorming some life raisers for myself. What about you? Any strategies from the book that you're particularly excited to try out?
Oh, for sure. The Enough Life exercise really stood out to me. It's just such a clear, concise way to set financial goals based on the life you actually want to live, not just on some arbitrary number someone tells you should be aiming for.
It's about designing a life you love.
Yes.
And then figuring out the financial resources you need to support that life.
Exactly. It ties into that whole theme of contentment and not getting caught up in that endless pursuit of more.
Like that story about Vonnegut and Heller.
Where Heller says he has something the billionaire can never have. Enough. So good.
So good. It's a powerful reminder that true wealth is about inner peace and fulfillment, not just the stuff you accumulate.
Couldn't agree more. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what's one specific action you, our listener, can take today to start building one of these 5 types of wealth?
Maybe it's scheduling that quality time with a loved one. Maybe it's trying out a new breathing exercise. Or maybe it's brainstorming your enough life. Whatever it is, we encourage you to take that first step today.
Remember, even small, consistent efforts can create big changes over time.
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more captivating deep dives like this one. And if you're enjoying the show and want to support us in creating more insightful content, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Every contribution helps us continue this journey of exploration and discovery. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.
Life's a game we play, but do we win it in the end? Counting coins, chasing time, never knowing where it'll win. Let me take you to a place where riches aren't just gold, where the wealth you build is more than what you hold. Time, love, and mind, gotta make them grow, not just numbers in a bank, no. I was running on a wheel, going nowhere, always chasing more, but I was unaware, till I saw the light. Oh, now I swear, happiness was never hiding over there. Vivo Rico, living life with balance, sense of meaning. No more running, no more mindless dreaming. Counting moments, not just paper. Oh, Vivo Rico, gotta build my time in love and wisdom, health and purpose, that's my true dominion. Now my life is shining brighter. Oh. They're the diamonds that will never break. Mental strength, that's the fire no one else can take. If you only chase the goal, let me keep it straight. You might end up empty, though your pockets weigh. I was running on a wheel, going nowhere, always chasing more, but I was unaware, till I saw the light. Oh, now I swear, happiness was never hiding over there. Vivo Rico, living life with balance, sense of meaning. No more running, no more mindless dreaming. Counting moments, not just paper. Oh, Vivo Rico, gotta build my time in love and wisdom, health and purpose, that's my true dominion. Now my life is shining brighter. Oh. Vivo Rico, living life with balance, sense of meaning. No more running, no more mindless dreaming. Counting moments, not just paper. Oh, Vivo Rico, gotta build my time in love and wisdom, health and purpose, that's my true dominion. Now my life is shining brighter. Oh. Slow it down, feel the moment. What's the wealth you really chosen? Life's too short to keep on hoping, time to start truly living. Yeah! Vivo Rico, not just numbers but a life worth keeping. Every heartbeat, every breath is fleeting. Now I see what really matters. Oh, oh.